Education and welcoming you all. I'm so happy to be here. Just to let you know about me, you'll see me throughout the faculty during your time here. I work with our alumni. You're my new family. I can't wait to get you out of the nest and into your careers. But I work with our alumni. I will fundraising for the faculty, so I get a lot of student awards that many of you will be recipients of, anniversaries, and I like to continue building those relationships. And I also do a lot of outreach events for the faculty. We have a few coming up, and anytime I send out emails that invite people to faculty events, please include yourself. You are our family. We do have a couple events coming up for homecoming that you might be interested in. One of them will be here in the auditorium itself. I might be dating myself. Some of you may know who Maestro Fresh West is. He's the yay. So he's considered the granddaddy of hip hop in Canada. He used to have a lot of hits when I was a teenager back in my days in university. He and one of our alums, Rodora Tom Vanderpool, wrote a book together, a children's book, and then he went on and wrote a Juno-nominated children's novel, which you can imagine is rap. They will be here live in person on the Sunday homecoming weekend, doing a book reading, and he'll be doing some performance. And it's an open event for all Western friends, family, alumni, you name it. Please come and join us and feel proud for your faculty. We're here for you. Whenever you see me in the hallway, don't hesitate to say hi. I'm the friendly face around here, so I would like to welcome you. There's many faces, but I'm not. That came out totally wrong. I apologize. But I'm usually the one sitting about the hall smiling and saying hi all the time because, I'm just doing that all the time. With that said, I'm going to bring us into the actual agenda of the event. I did have an acknowledgement prepared, but I know that Kathy would like to present that as part of her presentation, so just know that that will be forthcoming. And I would like to bring up our Dean of Faculty of Education, Dawn Sopoulos. She's right there. She does that. Be careful. Rosie, another friendly face. Yes. So hello everyone. I got a chance to say hi to many of you in the hallways as you were arriving. We're super excited to see you. My name is Dawn Sopoulos, and I'm really proud to be the Dean of the Faculty of Education here at Western. On behalf of the professors, the staff, I would like to welcome you to the faculty. Welcome you to your teaching education degree, the Bachelor of Education. Today you're beginning an exciting journey that I hope will last for decades for you. Some of you shared with me as you were arriving that you're feeling a wide range of emotions. Excited, nervous, even fear as you embark on your education career. Now raise your hand if you're feeling excited. Yes. Nervous? Yes. Yeah, this is pretty normal for all of us when we're starting a new journey. It means you're here very motivated to succeed with all the right intentions. And I can assure you, we're going to do everything we can to help you with your educational goals. I'm a former classroom teacher. I taught for a long time. Secondary, and actually started with junior intermediate, and then I became a secondary teacher, and my subject is mathematics. I can say that being a teacher is one of the most rewarding careers anyone can have. It's the career that I'm defined by. I find that by the time I get to every Labor Day, even though I haven't been in the classroom for a little while, every Labor Day I think, oh my God, I'm in a classroom, I don't have a class list, I need students, and I just haven't gotten through that missing going back in September. And even with the teacher shortages, I've often watched my own supplies. It's really cool to be out there teaching. It's thrilling to share our knowledge and our expertise with young minds willing to absorb the information. There's immense satisfaction in helping students become the best teachers they could possibly be. And it's important for you to want that for yourself, to be the best version of yourself. We're in a really unique time in our history where we know that schools, teachers, community
and each other are not necessarily okay. We've had multiple shifts over COVID, from person learning to online, and you've also seen that with probably your own education. We continue to be concerned about making sure children are advancing not only academically, but socially, emotionally. And so your career choice that you made has always had tremendous importance. We are raising the next generation of scientists, of construction workers, librarians, musicians, artists, politicians. And so thank you for being the very best students we could bring to Western and stepping into this responsibility. And there are great responsibilities with being a teacher. Every day you're making sort of legal, moral, ethical choices to ensure your students are safe and that you have healthy classrooms. And these decisions are based on trust. The moment that you enter these classrooms and the classrooms you're going to be teaching on, you're building that relationship that is based upon trust. Parents place their trust in you, we place our trust in you, and society places their trust in you. It's an incredible responsibility. As you begin your journey, everything may seem overwhelming, but we are here to ensure you that you can be the best educator possible and will support you on that journey. Our program is designed with professional practice in mind, but also thinking very deeply about what does the theory say, what is the relationship between what the research says and what you're doing in the classroom. So your program is geared to give you the kind of skills that you're going to need to be successful throughout your career. Many of our instructors are educators or former educators, and they're able to provide expertise and insight into classroom experiences. We will have experiences with, for example, your mentor teacher, and they're a valuable source of information. Feel free to talk to them about concerns or challenges you face. As educators, we've all been there, and their advice will give you great support in terms of how you make the decisions you make to do a problem. It's important to celebrate your successes, however small they are. Your first lesson plan, your first assignment, your first experience in a classroom or with children. When you're thinking about it, teaching is, as I said, much about building relationships. And to be an effective teacher, you'll need to build those successful relationships with your students, but also with the other people around you, your associate teachers, your teachers, with the principals, and with the people in this room. I often say to the students, look around you. These are the people that you're going to encounter in your career when you need a reference in a school, when you're going into school and say, yeah, we went to school together and now you're the principal. For me, Bill Tucker was the director of my school board. Now I'm his boss. I can hardly believe it. I don't know if you heard him, he said, neither can I. So these are the people that form your professional networks, and our networks actually are remarkably, oh, that's a big Take the time to build these relationships. And sometimes I say that we're building friendships, but really these are professional relationships. You're going to encounter each other, not only in this program, you need to support it on each other as colleagues, but throughout your career. Your teacher education program is going to go pretty quickly. Remarkably, you think today of how am I going to get through the 2 years? It's going to pass pretty fast. And this network is going to help you nurture the kind of successes you're going to have in your career. Finally, I'm going to encourage you, if you can, amidst the assignments and the pressures and the anxiety and the tensions, to try to enjoy every moment. Often we get caught really focusing on the finish line and forget to pay attention to the here and the now. It's tempting to look ahead and to think to next year when you're going to finish, but I really encourage you to sort of savor the moment where you are on the journey right now, whether it's in the school or in the classroom, in the hallways, or just on Western's campus. Can I get a sense of how many of you are new to Western? I had to put my glasses on. Okay, so we welcome you to Western.
you've picked one of the top universities in Canada. Just to share a little bit about our Faculty of Education, we are consistently on worldwide scales in the top 20 universities and faculties of education. We're consistently one of the top 3 faculties at Western in any international ranking. Campus is extraordinarily beautiful, as are the services, people, and the experiences that you can have here. If you are new to Western, we're super glad you chose us. You made the right decision, and I think you'll see that.
So to conclude, I wanted to thank each of you. I wanted to thank my colleagues in teacher education who have worked heroically to get you to this point. You know who you are. Stand up and give us a wave, our Office of Teacher Education.
So again, a very, very warm welcome, and I trust I'll see you in the hallways and at the many events that we host for you throughout the year. I'm thrilled that you've chosen to become a teacher. It is the greatest source of pride for me personally to say that I am a teacher. And I'm really excited to see you get to the point where you're crossing the stage and I'm standing there and you are saying to me, I am a teacher. So I'm really deeply pleased now to introduce your Associate Dean Teacher Education, who you will probably have more contact with me on a regular basis. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kathy Hibbard.
Thank you, Donna, and team. Can you join me, please? Just outside of our office, which is 1156. Just nodding. So rare that I have to use the actual address anymore. You'll see a new bulletin board that's been put up, and it includes all of these spaces along some. Come in here, please. Nice try. And it includes a little QR code, thank you, that you can immediately get more information about each of these wonderful people. But we have been literally singing in our offices, waiting for this day when you are all back on campus. We get energy from having you here. We get energy from this day, this new beginning, first part of your journey into teacher education. And this is my 40th year since I was sitting in your seat, and I'm still excited about it. I still love this profession. So I just wanted to make sure that you saw all of these wonderful faces. This is Claire Tattersall, our manager. Erin Peterson, who is the program coordinator. She's going to help you with AFE, T2P. This is Joanne Lombardi. You will hear from repeatedly if you haven't already, because she looks after Practica. And Wendy, who is working so closely with Joanne that they're usually in each other's office, Wendy Bernier. Rebecca Cole, you will have met, most likely, and maybe even Song, although he's fairly new to us, when you were thinking about coming into the program. And Kathy Cornett is the person whose face you will see when you walk into our office. And she will help direct you to whichever one of us can help you. This team is instrumental in everything that we do. And we are all here to support you and help make sure that you have a wonderful experience in your 2 years with us. So it's important we know who they are, because it takes all of us to put a program this complex together and to plan for a successful experience. I just wanted to thank you. Okay? You may go ahead. So you'll see on the screen right now, it says teaching is a privilege and a responsibility. I'm going to come out here a little bit because I understand for those who are joining us on Zoom that it's easier for them to hear if I'm not behind the barrier. And as I get to this next little bit, I just want to talk about masking for a moment.
It's important for everyone here to know that this is year 3 of us dealing with changing protocols, changing information, diverse information with respect to masking, immunization, and so on. It's difficult for all of us. My hope is that in schools, they have a more stable year. And we don't see what we've seen the last couple where, you know, classes have collapsed and reorganize and go online. We're all very hopeful that we are moving into a time when it's a little more stable. University policy around masking and immunization is set at the senior administrative level, not at the faculty level. I tell you this because I get regular email from students asking me, why this, why not that? We do not have any say over those policies. We do trust that our administration is speaking to the health professionals, the scientists, and so on. And it's interesting to note that it's not consistent across the province. I choose to mask when I'm in crowds because I have an immunocompromised husband and daughter and mother. My best friend has had cancer treatment that has afforded her 0 immunity, and I like to be one of the few people that she can still see for her own sanity. I think I help keep her sane. And in January of 2020, my brother, 14 months older than myself, died from COVID 3 weeks before he had access to the first vaccine. So each of us has personal reasons for making the choices and the decisions that we do. And I just ask that we all respect those choices and we live within the parameters that have been set for us here, and hope that we are moving into a different reality in time. Okay? All right, so back to the presentation at hand. This is such a powerful image. It's called Seeing Red by Ken Monkman. So I started teaching, as I said, this is my 40th year, in 1982. And I spent 18 years in the school system prior to coming to the university in 2000. And yet, at no time in my early education or my teacher education did I learn anything meaningful about Indigenous history. Many of you may not have learned much that was meaningful in your education either. This has to change. The faculty here has made a commitment to ensure that when you leave here in 2 years, you will be better able and prepared to teach all children. This begins by acknowledging the land itself. Western's Faculty of Education, as you will hear many times this year, is located on nearly 400 acres of land along the banks of the Thames River, once cared for by the Algonquin peoples, the Haudenosaunee peoples, and the Lenni Lenape as traditional beaver hunting grounds. Today, the Chippewa, the Thames First Nation, the Oneida Nation of the Thames, and the Munsee Delaware Nation communities continue to care for this region. Acknowledging that this faculty is situated on stolen land and naming a history that is quite different from the one that I experienced and was taught in school requires that faculties of education like ours rethink our roles in provincial education. As teachers and teacher educators, we have a responsibility to redress the multiple forms of violence embedded within settler colonialism. So Cree artist Kent Monkman created this piece for Canada's 150th birthday. Understandably, not all members of the community that we share this land with were celebrating this event. In 2015, following the first stage of their work, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada issued calls to action, and specifically calls to educators. Education institutions, Murray Sinclair wrote, are the key to reconciliation between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal Canadians because of what they have taught or failed to teach over many generations. Education must remedy gaps in historical knowledge that perpetuates ignorance and racism. Communicating our commitment to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission has to go beyond land acknowledgement. We need to think through our own words, our actions, the choices of resources that we bring into this building, the readings and the perspectives that we bring into our classrooms, and that we take this call to action seriously. We have been working hard to model this and all aspects of social justice and equity every day. We have a number of resources that are available now through the university that we will bring to you in a variety of formats. I'm sure when you came in, you noted this circular building down on the right-hand side. That would be the north end of the building, which used to be our library and is now going to be an Indigenous learning space. It has been in the works for at least 4 years. And it is going to have an official opening at the end of September. We are so excited about the opportunity to bring this learning space into our own location. It will be home for the entire university and the local communities that wish to use it. So this is a book. It's been one of the most popular books for young women, selling millions of copies worldwide. What to expect when you are expecting. It shepherds excited parents through the growth and development of the fetus during the 9 months of pregnancy. It was relatively new back in the day when I was having my kids, and I certainly grabbed a hold of a copy. But what I noticed as I was reading it is a couple of things. First of all, I had zero interest in any part of the book that was not directly relevant to the month that I was currently in. None. The second thing that I noticed is there was zero information about what to do when the baby actually arrived. And that was, I remember picking the book up and thinking, no, I need you now more than ever. Of course, today we have an updated version, and it talks about the postpartum period, and it talks about, being home with the baby, etc. And there are no end of resources online that can walk you through every month when the baby's here about what should you expect, what to look for, what's normal. And the reason that I want to bring this to your attention is because being in a teacher education program is not that dissimilar, right? We have all these expectations about what's going to happen when I have my own real class. In 2 years, you are going to be learning some of the answers to these questions that you may be expecting. How will I manage the class? How will I deal with parents? How will I cover the curriculum? And how will I cope with the intensity of the program? I want you to take a little look at the language that's used. The language that we see quite often tells us something about how we have understood this program or our role in it. For example, did you know we were not a teacher's college? We have not been a teacher's college for decades, and yet that's how we are referred to in the media every time they talk about us. We are a faculty of education, and you are getting another degree, okay? When you think about managing the class, I want you to imagine for a moment, where is the power? Who's in the decision-making role? Okay. How will I deal with parents? What does that suggest? Yeah. That that's something to be feared, avoided, anticipated with skepticism, fear, dread. How will I cover the curriculum? What does that suggest? I'm writing a whole paper on this. You know, I've heard it from so many people too, especially when we went from the 5-year secondary system down to 4 years. That getting through that document and the expectations was more important than anything else. So it didn't matter if the students were keeping up because the teachers had to cover the curriculum. And coping with the intensity of the program. All of these things reflect a particular way of viewing the world, and it is a view that does not include one of the most important aspects, which is the relational. If you have a relationship with your students, behavior is going to be much less of a problem. Much less, and I taught a behavior class. If you have relationships with your parents, they will become your biggest supporters. If you know your students well and have a relationship with them, you will build the curriculum that best suits them together. Coping with the intensity of the program, that's what we're here to help you with. A couple of years ago, we had a project where we actually hired, during COVID, 23 students, 20 of them were teacher candidates, just like yourselves, to work with our instructors. And we can't change the number of courses. You will carry between 8 and 11. Some of you, depending on the program, might have a couple of others. Rather than the 5 you were used to in your undergrad. So yes, it's busy. You need to think about this as if you're going to work and putting in a full day every day. In part, that scaffolds you into preparation for a very busy career. Okay? At the same time, if you run into trouble, we are here, and we are here to help. Because we want you to be successful. Every single person that I brought up on stage wants you to be successful. We have some resources that can support that if you need them. But you have to come and talk to us. Okay? If you don't, what happens is that you're not in the best place that you can be. And if you're not in the best place that you can be, what you have to give the students is also not going to be your best. So I'm going to turn to someone you may be familiar with, and her name is Brene Brown. And she is a psychologist, and she's also a researcher who looks at vulnerability and shame. And vulnerability and shame is something that all of us carry to some degree, some much more than others. Donna mentioned in her opening address, and I'm sure Bill will talk about this a little bit too, because we've heard each other speak from time to time. When you are a teacher, the power that you have is much more than your ability to keep someone in from recess. We talked about language earlier. What you say can have an impact on students for the rest of their lives. So we're going to just listen for a moment as we hear from Brene, and give me just a moment to get to the point that I want to have you listen to. So.
there's a back school, like the big 520 laptop, but in the middle, you have 520 laptop. You can make your classroom. In some degree, we have lots of different brave, badass people or schools, but certainly in a classroom. You can, at the same time, you can create a culture of courage within a classroom that can be the only space a child has. Our adult, when you're in college, I don't think graduate level, that's what the PhD said. You can create a space in that classroom if you're willing to be excruciatingly uncomfortable and vulnerable. That may be the only space that students to take their arm off of the program. But the one thing that will kill us, after the basic enough, the one betrayal of vulnerability, is shame. That cannot happen in that classroom. And here's what we need to know before we start talking about shame. 85% of the men and women I've interviewed over the last 15 years can remember a shame incident at school that was so devastating that forever changed how they thought of themselves as women. So let's do this. Raise your hand if you're in here and you can think about something that happened to you in school that changed how you thought of yourself. Right. It's really specific. Over 90% of people who live in the community can remember a specific teacher, coach, or administrator who made them believe in their self-worth when no one else did. How do you remember that teacher, that coach, or that administrator? So look at that me. There's a big teacher that nothing has to review or more good or harm or what's happening. It doesn't mean what it means, and let me tell you, you can be the same person. What it means is do not ever question the power you have with the people you teach. One is inherently vulnerable, and it's why you've got a classroom full of turtles and marshmallows.
The entire Daring Classroom's YouTube presentation is worth watching. That's all we're going to take a peek at today.
And I think that, one of the key takeaways that Brene talks about in her work is that teachers are some of our most important leaders. We know that we can't always ask our students to take their armor off at home or even on their way to school because of the emotional and physical safety that might require them to practice a little self-protection. But what we can do, and what we are ethically called to do as teachers, is create a space in our schools and our classrooms where all students can walk in and for that day or hour, take off the crushing weight of their armor, hang it on a rack, and open their heart to being truly seen. Teachers are the guardians of spaces that allow students to breathe and to be curious and explore the world and be who they are without suffocation. Students deserve one space where they can rumble with vulnerability and their hearts open and can exhale. What I know from the research, she says, is that we should never underestimate the benefit of a child, of having a place to belong, even one, where they can take off their armor. It can and often does change the trajectory of their life. So, interestingly, some of you will recall that I sent out a survey. I always send them out when we first send out the offers to come in the program, because most people answer the survey during that initial couple of weeks when they're still really excited.
And you also are learners. And here is what you have told us about some of the things that you feel vulnerable about. Adapting to changes, worried about learning how to connect to peers, pressures of the job market, working with principals. Okay? All of these things are topics that were mentioned multiple times in that survey. I think it's helpful for you to see that your peers are also worrying about the same things. And I think it's also helpful for you to know that when we do in-service with our faculty and instructors, that we share this information with them, so that they're also reminded, because this list is not new. It is not new. It's remarkable how consistent it is, in fact. But we continue to share it with our instructors and our faculty as a reminder to think way back to when they started out in this program. In my case, way back. And remember what it's like to come in and feel that daunting responsibility and, you know, am I going to be good enough in this career? Are my students going to like me? Which, by the way, is what most parents want to know when they come to parent-teacher interviews. Do you like my kid? Okay. So keep that in mind. We also asked you what the most powerful learning experiences that you engaged in were, and this is also a rather remarkably consistent list. We also share this with your instructors when they're in your planning sessions. But I want to point out that sometimes getting those powerful learning experiences can make you uncomfortable. You may be in spaces where your worldview or ways of thinking are being challenged. We call that discombobulation as one term. It's a place where you are intentionally made to feel uncomfortable because you're questioning the taken for granted. You're questioning what has always been normal for you. And when you look at all of the information, you may come all the way back to the belief that you came in with. Or you may change your belief in the face of new knowledge. Depends on the topic, and it depends on what experiences and knowledge you already have coming in. But I think it helps to expect that and anticipate it. And when you are in that space where you feel really uncomfortable with the new knowledge, just sit with it for a little while. Don't resist it. Don't assume that there's something wrong. Accept that sometimes learning can be difficult and challenging and push us to think about things in different ways. And this is also something that you said that you want us to know. By the way, like Donna, I taught for many, many years before I came back into academia. And everything from literally every grade in the elementary panel, including French, your classroom, as I mentioned, special education. And then I went into the secondary panel and was responsible for gifted education. In all of my classes, I always asked my students, what do you want me to know about you? That I might not know from the previous year's report card or some IEP or a report or a meeting. So what do you want me to know about you as a learner? And that conversation has been more fruitful, in my experience, than any of the other things that we collect together. This, as you know, is a second entry undergrad. It is also a professional program. And there are consequences to being in a professional program that are remarkably different from being in a first entry undergrad. One of them is that we are governed
and accredited by the College of Teachers. And we'll be meeting them and talking about the expectations to be a licensed teacher in Ontario. In terms of your program, though, I guess the realities of what that means for you as teacher candidates is that you are not undergrad students like you were in your first entry program. In a professional program, you're required to come every day. You can't wake up at 8 and decide you're tired and don't want to go do it at what times. You have to take on the professionalism that would be expected of you as a teacher. So if I'm teaching and I can't make it to work, I have to get in touch with the principal and have a legitimate reason for not getting into it. And it's the same thing here. As a professional student, you have to be in touch with your instructors as soon as humanly possible. And you should also let the teacher education office know if it's more than one class that you're missing. Because eventually, if you miss too many classes, you put in jeopardy your ability to get the requirements filled to be licensed. Okay, so we tell everybody that up front. Obviously, we are human beings, and there will always be circumstances, illness, compassionate leave, etc., that you may need to avail yourself of, and we will support you through that. But otherwise, the expectation is that you're here, and if for any reason you cannot be here, you have to contact your instructor, and they may require you to do some makeup work. So just be aware of it. The other thing that really shifts is it's no longer about you. It's no longer about how well you do in your course. Whether you get a 92 or an 89, doesn't matter. What matters is how what you learn is going to inform what you do with students in your professional practice. It's now about them and your ability to support someone else. As Donna said, this is a position that is held in the public trust. And so we take very seriously that we are working with you to ensure that you have the best skills possible, the best knowledge, and the best attitude, quite frankly, when you leave here to go into the profession, so that you can do the best that you possibly can with those who are entrusted to you.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
This particular image is a favorite of mine. I took this picture outside of the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is at the UN grounds in Vienna, Austria. I like it because what's been cut out of the original stone has been preserved, honored, included, and polished into something quite beautiful. In this program, you each come in with your own background knowledge, experiences. Some of them will be helpful to you and will enhance your ability to become a professional teacher. However, some of our previous background knowledge and experience will need to be disrupted and challenged. And this is the discomfort that I was talking about before. We will work with you to develop your professionalism, but just as in this sculpture, you will leave something behind as you become a professional. You will leave behind any lingering bad habits that may have been developed as a student. You will come to realize that even on social media, the public is already starting to pay attention to your fitness to serve as a teacher. You will be scrutinized in ways that you may never have been before. You may see the profession attacked in the media. You are also expected to behave as professionals while here in the building, whether you're on practicum or out on an alternative field experience. In a professional program, treat the next 2 years, as I said, as if you are going to work. Okay? Show up early, not late.
Think about the dress code in the schools that you're entering and ensure that you're meeting the expectations that they have for their students and their teachers. When you meet your associate teacher, practice those skills that you have not had practicing for the last 3 years. Meet them, look them in the eye when you introduce yourself, shake their hand if that's appropriate in the context of COVID, and then make it your mission to have conversations with them on a daily basis. Joanne has done a lot of work with the practicum handbook this year. It's just been freshly revised with input from our associate teachers and our students. We have a more clarified, I suppose, agreement in terms of what's expected of you when you go into those practicum placements, in terms of, up front, having a conversation with your associate teacher to say, I'm here to learn, and if we communicate, my learning will be supported. I want to see you all showing up for those placements early. And I want to see you ensuring that the associate teachers, who, by the way, are doing this work for us, we are guests in their schools and in their classrooms. So I want to see the lesson plans that they ask you to develop handed in early, not minutes before you're presenting it, not the morning of, and not late the night before. Because if we don't give our best, they can't give us their best. There is a professional advisory website on the College of Teachers page, and I wanted to just draw this to your attention because every year I have students in my office trying to explain why they posted information on their social media that has caught the attention of people, sometimes globally, sometimes just locally. But it is something that as I mentioned, it's being scrutinized and monitored. So there it is, all of these professional advisories, you'll be reminded of them throughout the year. But by telling you now, on day one, when you come in to see me in my office and tell me that you didn't know, we'll be talking about that. There are advisories on duty to report, the use of electronic communication and social media, an advisory on anti-Black racism, professional misconduct of a sexual nature, responding to the bullying of children, safety and learning environments, supporting mental health, and video conferencing guidelines. They're also working on anti-Semitic communication as well, anti-Islamophobic. In the absence of these, when we see a need for them, we bring in speakers and include it in your T2P program. So just, be conscious and be cognizant of the fact that, again, you are being held to a higher standard when you become a teacher. And this little piece of art is just to say, I didn't want to scare you with all of that information. We are in this together, and you will draw strength from community, contribution, and connection. Get involved, be here, participate in the wellness activities or the musical or whatever we have going on. You will draw strength from that, and you will develop relationships that you will have 40 years later, I guarantee it. Try to drown out the noise. I think it's no surprise to anyone that this year we are back into labor negotiations. And what happens in the news between the federations, the unions, and the government is what they do. That's what happens in a labor negotiation year. Unfortunately, a lot of it gets aired in the media, trying to drum up blood pressure, quite frankly. Try to drown out the noise. There is plenty of time for you as you come into the profession and learn about your federations, your unions, and so on, for you to learn about that part of being a professional. I often get people saying, what do I do, when? My response is always the same, act professionally. Period. You have no control over this. You have control over how you act as a professional. All right. The very last thing, this is just reminding you, by the way, balance. Do not put all your eggs into the basket of doing nothing but schoolwork. If you can. I will tell you, a lot of us in this program are workaholics. A lot of us. And a lot of people, every instructor in this building will tell you that most of the assignments the teacher education candidates do are way more than they are asking for. You tend to try and somehow replicate perfection. I don't know what it is. Pinterest has not helped. We are not Pinterest teachers. You do not want a Pinterest classroom. Okay? Teacher pay teacher is a distraction. It might look like it helps you initially, but like all resources, you're going to have to adapt everything for your students, your classroom, your context. So don't get sucked into that. Do a good job, but spend just the right amount of time reading for pleasure, engaging in sports and activities that you like to do, getting together with friends, including friends that aren't teachers, by the way, because it quickly devolves into all teacher talk. Guilty. Ask my husband. So just make sure that you have that balance. Okay, one last, and that is the Marigold story. I've been telling this story for a little while now, and I keep getting people telling me about how helpful it was to help them think about things. So this is called the Marigold effect. I did not write it. Many experienced gardeners follow a concept called companion planting, placing certain vegetables and plants near each other to improve growth for one or both plants. For example, rose growers plant garlic near their roses because it repels the bugs and prevents fungal diseases. Among companion plants, the marigold is one of the best. It protects a wide variety of plants from pests and harmful weeds. If you plant marigold beside almost any garden vegetable, that vegetable is going to grow big and strong and healthy, protected and encouraged by its marigold. Marigolds exist in our schools as well, encouraging, supporting, and nurturing growing teachers on their way to maturity. If you can find at least one marigold in your school and stay close to them, you will grow. Find more than one, and you will positively thrive. But few teachers are lucky enough to be planted next to a marigold. Being assigned to one as a mentor or a co-teacher or a team leader will be rare. You'll have to seek them out. But you can identify them by the way that they congratulate you on your arrival, rather than asking why anyone would want this godforsaken job. Or by the way their offers to help sound sincere, or just by the way that you feel with them when you're around, comfortable asking questions, even stupid ones. If you feel good around this person, chances are they have marigold qualities. However, beware the walnut trees. While seeking out your marigolds, you'll need to take note of the walnut trees. Successful gardeners, as you know, avoid planting vegetables anywhere near walnut trees, which give off a toxic substance that can inhibit growth, wilt, and eventually kill off nearby vegetable plants. Sadly, if your school is like most, walnut trees will be abundant. They may not seem dangerous at first, and in fact, some may appear to be good teachers, happy, social, well-organized. But here are some signs that you should maybe keep your distance. Their take on kids is negative. Their take on the administration, negative. Being around them makes you feel insecure, discouraged, overwhelmed, or embarrassed. Walnut trees are poison. Avoid them whenever you can. If you don't, they will start to infect you, and pretty soon you'll start to hate teaching too. But find compassion for the walnut trees. Their toxicity comes from a place of real pain, and they themselves probably fell under the influence of a walnut tree that came before them. Plus, it's not like their complaints have no basis in reality. Teaching is a ridiculously hard job. Instead, make time to spend with marigolds. Having a hard day, go see your marigolds. Not understanding how to do something, marigolds. Confused by something, marigolds. If your school is especially toxic, you might have to find your marigolds in another school. Make the effort. It's worth the trouble. And someday, because you have had this experience, you may have the opportunity to serve as a marigold to a new teacher entering the profession. I wish you the very best over the next 2 years and look forward to getting to know you better.
Thanks, Kathy. I'd like to think that I'm a marigold, even though I'm a rosy. I'm going to bring up Claire Tattersall to talk to you now, and I'm sure that many of you already had some dealings with Claire.
Dealings, that word for some reason sounds a little sketchy. All right, this is me, and this is Dr. Archie Brindleton. I just started in this faculty 4 months ago, and it has been an exceptional learning experience. I have to say that I like you all so much more right here than I do when you're on my computer screens and spreadsheets. You look way more exciting and enthusiastic than you do in a spreadsheet. So I am so happy to be here with you today and to have you all coming in. It gave me so much energy. I was literally running around in front of my new boss, like a lunatic. It's like you inject me with this energy. I'm like, oh, this is an appropriate thing to run around like a lunatic. So, okay, I'm just gonna give you a couple pieces of advice. This should make a lot of sense, right? Smoothies and a gear shift. There we go. That's how you're gonna get through this program and potentially your entire teaching career. Smoothies and gear shift. So I'm gonna tell you why. So, over the last couple of years, 2.5 years, it's been exceptionally difficult. Literally every single one of us is operating at some level of deficit. We're not quite as energized, as focused, as mentally stable as perhaps we were 2.5 years ago. Every child, every youth, every teacher, every principal, every checkout person, everyone that you're driving through traffic with is operating at a deficit. And what happens is that there's lots of research around this that shows that we need to treat ourselves much more like we treat our cars. We're actually way kinder with our vehicles than we are with ourselves. We do not expect to keep a car running when it's out of gas, or when the battery isn't charged, or when you drive it around in 5th gear. And science shows that how we feel, how we approach our world, how we tackle challenges is actually not just about, your strengths or your skills or the sort of innate qualities in your personality. So much of it is actually based in our physiology. So it's not that you need to become a stronger or better person, you need to focus more on physiological well-being. So that's making sure of things like that you're getting enough sleep, that you are eating properly, that you're exercising, that you're keeping your body fueled like you would fuel a car, and that you're not driving around stuck in fifth gear all the time. I found for myself in about February of this year that I was stuck in fifth gear. You know those days where it's like you can't even get to sleep because you're still in fifth gear, your engine is still revving, and your brain is not giving you a break. And what happens with our minds and our bodies when we get stuck in fifth gear is that we can't shift, we struggle shifting. So the better you get at learning how to transition, how to shift, it starts to affect your heart rate. Your heart rate variability is one of the best predictors of lower stress and better mental well-being. So don't get stuck in fifth gear. The other thing, and Kathy was pointing to some of this breaking news thing. So we are constantly bombarded with negative, stress-inducing information. So this will be happening on social media, and sometimes even it's not the negative stuff on social media, it's the super toxically positive stuff on social media that makes you feel really bad about yourself, like, I'm a terrible mother, my dinner is not good enough compared to that person's dinner. These are the sorts of things that we're always comparing ourselves to something that's so much more impressive. And we're fed this constantly. And when you're fed that constantly, it literally, again, has a physiological impact on your body. It starts your body to release different hormones and chemicals that impact, again, your heart rate and your stress and these sorts of things. So it's really important to try and tune out some of the negative information and really focus on what are you feeding your mind. Every thought that we have, every piece of information that we absorb, it's like lines of code in a program where you're literally programming your computer for a certain outcome. What you seek is what you find. So if you're thinking negative things all the time, you're actually more likely to have those negative things become your reality. So it's important to pay attention to what are the thoughts that you're feeding yourself and what are the messages that you're allowing yourself to absorb. One example for me that's from a really mundane, everyday thing that I do, that I realize this is so different than when I was a kid. So the Weather Network. I check the Weather Network all the time, every day. And when I check the Weather Network, I notice that how we talk about bad weather has changed from when I was a child. So when I go and check the Weather Network now, if there's going to be a thunderstorm or high winds or something like that, the screen is now red, like a bright red, and the words are like threat, warning, threat of severe thunderstorms that may cause damage and destruction. Like when I was a kid and I was getting told about the weather, it's like there's a chance of a thunderstorm. End of story. That was it. Like, oh, there's a chance of a thunderstorm. You're like, fine, okay, I'll go run around in the rain and jump in puddles. It's fine. But even the weather now is something that puts us in a state of arousal, threat, fear. And the reason that is being done is because what happens when there's that red screen saying warning is that you then refresh, you click again, you're like, oh, I need to check the radar, where is it going? You know, and so that actually generates income for the Weather Network because now they're advertisers, they've got more clicks, they've got more time. So companies are benefiting and profiting quite literally from putting us into a state of fear and threat. So just be aware of those things and try to avoid feeding yourself and be aware of that narrative that you tell yourself as well. When you go into a classroom, instead of saying, oh my God, what's going to happen? I don't know if I'm ready. I don't think I'm ready. I'm not ready. What are they going to think about me? I don't think that kid's looking at me. I don't think that kid likes me. If you go instead into a classroom and say, in your head, you don't need to say this out loud either, but in your head, if you're saying, this is going to be awesome. I am going to be the best teacher candidate ever in the history of teacher candidates. It does not have to be true. It doesn't have to be true. You could be like just moderately acceptable. But if you tell yourself, this is going to be excellent, I am going to be so good in this moment, Moderately acceptable is more likely to happen than failure and complete crash and burn. It doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be true. And this is where the smoothies come in. Okay, so there was a research study done where they brought in a group of people and they gave them a smoothie. And they said, drink this smoothie and then we're going to test your blood. So the people look at this smoothie and they're like, okay, yeah, oh, diet smoothie, nice. And it's only 90 calories and it's super healthy and has lots of vitamins. Right. And they drink the smoothie and then they take their blood and see what happens with their blood. So the same people come back the next week and they give them another smoothie. And this smoothie says high calorie, high energy, decadent smoothie, 600 calories. And they're like, oh, that's a lot of calories. And they drink that smoothie and they test the blood. And what they found is what happened with that person, with all of these individuals' blood and how their body responded to these two different smoothies was directly related to what it said on the label. But the two smoothies were exactly the same. Our minds are powerful. They have a powerful ability to control our physiology, and our physiology helps us to overcome those scary situations, to walk into a classroom even when you're afraid, and to still overcome, to still be moderately impressive. So remind yourself of that. Be aware of what you're telling yourself and never underestimate the power of your own mind to help you become the best version of yourself. And that's the advice. Gear shift, smoothie, and avoid the breaking news. And welcome.
I'm really thirsty about this. Yes.
I'm going to bring up Bill Tucker. He's your instructor. Nice picture. Instructor creating supportive learning environments. Teacher for that, of course, but I think Bill is a staple. I think he's been around as long as this faculty. When I first started working here, Bill was everywhere, so expect Bill to be everywhere, I guess.
So, nice picture. Well, I know there's a second year candidate and a second year panel. So, welcome back here. Hey, folks, welcome back. Welcome to the best profession in the world. It is, without doubt, it's the best profession in the world. You know, there's something about teaching. Remember, I'm sure this has happened to you. You've gone into Kelsey's or a gym, and there's one of your former teachers having a beer, or working out, or you see them at the arena and say, they let you out of school at night, weekends and holidays? It's so weird to see them out of context, isn't it? It is so weird. The great thing about teaching is that you have no idea the impact you're going to make on others' lives. You have really no idea. It lasts years. And I truly believe education is a door that opens up for your students a door to escape poverty, aggressiveness, violence. It's amazing. I'll give you a couple of examples. Kathy disappeared, but in our neighborhood we have a superstore. And we're going to the grocery shop, look at the craft beer section. And I turn around and I hear this blood-curdling scream. Ah! Mr. Tucker, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Tucker! And this grown woman came up and she threw her arms around me. And I'm going, I didn't get going. And they always, the former students are like, remember me, remember me? And I go, oh. And she starts jumping up and down. And it started looking pretty rude, and I thought we were going to call for cleanup on aisle 4. And I saw other people coming around with their carts, and they saw us. And she said, "You're my principal at Wilfrid Jury Public School. We loved you. Thank you. You used to send me home with headlights." True story. And my dad was a high school teacher. And I remember once, he was a high school teacher in Leverage, Ontario. And we were there. And my wife and I were having dinner at the local restaurant, and this elderly man came up and he said, "You know, this is when I was still director of education." He said, "Your dad taught me in high school." This guy was like 75 years of age. He still remembered my father teaching. We have every summer invitations from a police officer who invites every one of his teachers from elementary school to secondary school to a barbecue. Just to say, you have no idea the impact that you have on a vulnerable population. Saying what you've heard today is entirely true. Teachers are held to a higher standard of conduct in our society. They really are. So if you love kids and you love teaching, teaching is the best profession in the world. There's nothing like it. If you're not too thrilled with kids, or you're not too thrilled with teaching, and you want it as a job, it's the worst job in the world. So when you come to the faculty, you'll be frustrated, you'll be overwhelmed, you'll be exhausted, you'll be challenged, you may be angry sometimes. Welcome to teaching. But to balance that, you'll be excited, you feel exhilarated, you feel fulfilled, you feel professionally challenged, you'll make lifelong friends here. Welcome to the world of teaching. Teaching is a team sport. Teaching is a team sport. So as an instructor, get ready for us to have you push your comfort zones, push the boundaries. Get ready to work with others. Teachers who teach by themselves with doors closed suffer a slow decline and so slow professional death. Kathy's also right about professional standards. One of the most difficult things I've heard from first-year candidates, and maybe move it back and reinforce this, is making a transition from being a student to a professional education. I tell the groups I work with, when you submit an essay, I'm not looking for right or wrong answers, but I'm going to approach it as if I'm a school principal. And if I don't believe it's of a professional standard, I hand it back. And just to give you a view of my background, I taught elementary, I taught secondary. I experienced so many things. And the scariest amongst them was grade 6 girls. She's not my friend anymore. Or JK, you know, they come up and wrap around your ankles. I've been a school vice principal, I've been superintendent of human resources, I've been superintendent of special education, superintendent of schools, and director of education. So, all this stuff that you're hearing in the media and stuff, talk to your instructors. You have retired principals, retired teachers, retired superintendents. Rich McDonald's another retired director of education. When I hear and read these things on the paper and the radio, I go, yada, yada, yada. I walk it. It's all privilege. So, I'm not going to take up much more of your time. I get to see some of you Tuesday. I get to see some of you Thursday. We're going to be very practical. That is creating supportive learning environments. I call it classroom management. I'm old school. So, get ready to learn, folks, and experience the joys of education. And I'm just going to say to you, congratulations. Welcome to Western.
it's my pleasure to bring up Zachary Bader Shinline. I'm pretty sure I said that right, Zach. I've had the pleasure to meet Zach as the student council president for you guys. He worked with me to set up an award on behalf of the students council for teacher candidates. So that was really visionary for the student council that had some money left over from COVID. Please welcome Zach.
Hi everyone, it's really great getting some of you on the way in, and to see faces and welcome you to this program, and obviously once again, welcome to the faculty of education. Shout out to our crowd at home as well, wherever you're tuning in from. So happy you're here. Honestly, that was such a great row of speakers that I don't feel there's too much I could say to impart wisdom. I'm only going to my second year, but I'm so excited for you all. Really, I just wanted to take this time before we introduce the incredible panel. We have those second year speakers to field any number of questions you may have. Really just to say that your time in this building, I feel, and I say this as well regarding to our second year students, it'll be as good as we as a collective of students make it. And that's really where the Education Students Council becomes paramount. There are a number of roles that are still available, and you'll be hearing from me in an email about some of those available and the election process that will be coming up in the coming weeks if you want to get involved. I won't go through all the positions, but if you're someone who enjoys planning social events, if you're someone who enjoys scheduling, budgeting, if you're a data-oriented person, and plenty of other things on the student council available, it's just, to me, the most impactful way you can have a say on how your time in this faculty is going to be. As I said, you'll hear from me in the coming weeks with more information about that in detail. Last thing I just wanted to say really is that, as I said, there's nothing I can really add to all the wisdom that's been shared already, and getting to hear some of those speakers as we did last year was just awe-inspiring, just as it was in our orientation. Not much more being in person, but the words are still stick. But coming in this, I reached out to a friend of mine who used to teach in Thames Valley. He's now a personal development coach, and I just wanted to go into this. I got some nerves, so I don't know how many folks are going to be here. You're all excited to start. I'm supposed to say something. I don't know what do I know? I know nothing. That's all I know is that I know nothing. He imparted on me just a bit of wisdom that I'll just share with you. It's a Nelson Mandela quote that I think pertains not only to your experiences that you'll have in this building, but from someone who's had a mere just two practicum experiences, I think translates to the classroom as well, which is that you don't win or lose. You win or you win. I think that is impactful in any walk of life you pursue, and I know that's something that's helped me not only come into this day here today, feeling a bit more confident and excited, but knowing that in a short week and a bit, I'll be starting another practice, getting to engage with all those emotions that'll come with that. So once again, I'm Zachary, however you want. My mom's the only person who consistently calls me Zachary, but that's where you can reach me. Any concerns that I can help you with, as the president of BESC, I also connect with the University Student Council, try and represent our faculty to the best of my abilities. So please never hesitate to reach out, see me around campus. Timelines kind of go a little back and forth, but yeah. I'll end sort of there. I think the next thing we're going to go into is our raffle before we bring down. Okay, so hopefully you all grab the raffle ticket, so you can all reach into your pockets, bags, purses, or wherever you're hiding that thing. We'll start the raffle off with this great selection of books. I think this requires a drum roll by law. I think. Yeah, there we go. 0, 3, 5, 4, 8,
0-4. 0-3-5. 4-8-0-4. Please come down front and have your first selection on these wonderful books around here. It's like a strange alternative version of Jerry Springer. No one's crying. You're getting one of the books. It's tremendous. Thank you. 0-3-5-4-8-2-0. 0-3-5-4-8-2-0. Going once, going twice. Good time. On to the next one. Here we go. 0-3-5-4-8-5-0. There we go. Bring it on down. It's a bit of a trend with these numbers, eh? 0-3-5-4-8-1-1. Yeah, there we go, there we go. 0-3-5-4-7-8-8. Oh. There we go. Come on down. I didn't mention this earlier. I'm an intermediate senior on the philosophy and history of my teachable, so I'm just going to have to saunter over here and just make sure my math's correct. Let me go over that. 5. Okay, all right. That's how numbers work. 0-3-5-4-8-2-4. There we go. Shout out to whoever took the Shell Silvers. That's just a piece of my childhood. Oh my goodness. 0-3-5-4-8-3-0. There we go. Zero, 3-5-4-7-9-2. There it is.
Resilience is written by one of our alums, so.
There you go. 0-3-5-4-7-6-9. Yeah, there we go. Oh, brilliant. We just got an extra book thrown into the pile. All right, so the penultimate one. 0-3-5-4-8-6-5. Cool. There we go.
Okay, so no one asked me for a book. I'm so offended. I would like to give this one to Zach, and I'm going to bring you personally, right after this, the book about Stick to Your Vision, Young Maestro Goes to School, the book written by Dora Peloton Vanderpool and Maestro Flashbacks. So stick around and I'll bring it right down.
0-3-5-4-8-6-3. There, yeah, there we go. All right. Right, covered. All right, it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce you all to this incredible panel we have of second-year students. I don't think I can introduce them better than they can themselves. I think I'll just pass the mic down and you can get to know who these fine folks are.
I hope everybody can hear me. I'm on day 58 of recovering from laryngitis. It's a fun time. My name is Ashley Brown. I'm in primary junior with my specialty in French.
Hello. My name is Emily Parker, if anyone cares about that. I am in French, like Esther, but I am junior intermediate. A little different, but we have a lot of same classes.
Hi, I'm Andrew Hazzy. I'm junior intermediate. My teaching subject is vocal music, and my specialty is math and the arts.
Hello. My name is Lauren. My pronouns are he, him, or they, them. I'm also in the intermediate senior stream with English and philosophy as my teachables, and my specialty area in international education.
Hi, I'm Sean Pollock. My stream is primary junior and specialty is in math through the arts. I'm also a parent, and this is my second group.
All right, let's give it up real quick for our panel. Before I open it up to the crowd to get your questions, I figured I'd start with a few warm-up questions just to, get the ball rolling a little bit. So the first one I want to pose, and maybe just quickly go down the line, is what was the biggest difference between your first year in the program and your experience doing undergrad?
For me, it was getting used to the number of classes. I was used to for my undergrad doing about 5 or 6 talks. And then getting used to, I think first semester I had 10 of 11, and then second semester I had 10. So it was a lot to teach.
On the plus side, like no studying, no tests, we're good. Be open to a lot of group work. You are going to want to get to know, we call them your colleagues. You're all colleagues now, and you are going to be together all the time when you're in classes, and it really benefits you to get to know as many people as possible, because you can't do it alone. You'll be miserable if you try to do it alone. It's not possible.
I finished my undergrad many years ago, not right, so it was a bit of a hard question for you to try to remember back to, but I was also going to say the same as Esther. I think it's not so much the workload, it's the quantity of what you're doing is not much larger for me than my undergrad, but it's just a number of things to keep track of, between the administrative things, the number of courses, the number of assignments per course. This course is only these days, that day, this one posts the assignments the week after, the week before. It's that kind of stuff. I think for me it was the biggest difference.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that when I was like, thinking about how to answer this question. But yeah, the amount of things is huge, but they're all small. So like a lot of the assignments are a lot smaller, they're more manageable than the giant essays you're doing in undergrad, which is a lot of essay courses. But there's just a lot of them, so like get an agenda, how are you using one, with your best friend. And also on the more positive side, like I think a big difference for me was the class sizes being a lot smaller, which was really, really nice, and I didn't know if I was gonna like that. But I made like a lot more friends in my first year than I did in my full undergrad, all 4 years of it. So that was really, really nice, and yeah, so that's all.
The group work comment is kind of funny because I know Esther from being in our math group, and otherwise I probably would not have come across her. Another big thing is the pass-fail for me. It's kind of a game changer for this program. I did my undergrad many, many moons ago, and pass-fail really takes the edge off of having to get 98. And do your best, and you don't have to compete so readily with those types of works. So it's really helpful.
I'll ask one more before we open it up to the crowd, and Sarah got a few more in the back pocket, along with one that was raised up, the notebook, and then the agenda too. Always got to keep track of things. I guess just generally, big part of the program is the practical experience, and these five folks have had at least 2, and some of them actually got to do a little extra work in their practical experience that may come up in the questions, or we may be able to talk about that. But
having 2 practicums in the books, what would you say is one or a few major takeaways that would have been helpful going into your first week? The practicum experience is transformative. You're going to be different from where you started to where you finished. I feel each one of them. I had the opportunity to work in May and June, and that was also transformative for me. But you are going to be really tired at the end of the practicum phase. Sometimes I was so tired, driving home was a little sketchy. It is like that. I guess learning is like that, but just so that you know, be prepared to be exhausted.
Yeah, echo that for sure. I'm really tired. But I wanna say, like, just take it one day at a time, because I think it's really easy to get overwhelmed at the beginning of practicum. I think people all the stuff that they do, and when we have people like us sitting up here being like, oh, it's so exhausting, there's so much work, but like, you're gonna do it, like, just take it seriously one day at a time. If someone would have told me that, I think I would have been less scared. Your practicum, your AT, my experience, please. I have been supportive ATs, and they are there to help you, so don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't think about everything you're gonna have to do to get to the end of practicum.
I think the biggest thing that I wish I had, I wish I told myself question, I lost track of.
It's a bit of a blend, more practicum centered.
Practicum based. I think there is so much that we go through, especially for that first practicum, or leading up to that first practicum, and I think for some of us will be super overwhelmed, and some of us will feel like, yeah, I got this, and get in there. But either way, I think it's important to remember that if that first practicum was meant for us to be the most phenomenal teachers that we ever could be, then the program would be 1 semester, and you would get there. And I think giving yourself sort of the grace and the permission to grow. So not just permission to fail, but also permission to give yourself permission to succeed and to grow and to learn. I think is like, don't worry if you don't have all the answers right there. Don't worry if you don't even know where to find all the answers right away. Just like give yourself that space to grow.
Still don't know where to find the answers at all. But I have 2 things. One, just having 2 different practicums. My associate teachers on both my practicums could not have been more different. But I learned equally from both of them, but they were like so different. So if you go in and you think, I really vibe with this person, wow, like I want to be just like them, that's awesome. But you might also have the opposite experience where you're like, I do not vibe with what this person is going for, like this is not my type of teaching. That's also cool, you'll still learn something from them. Whether it's, oh, I don't like that, I don't want to do that, or maybe there's one really awesome thing that they do that you take away, that you'll always learn something. And second, on my very first practicum, on my very first day, my teacher, it was lunch, and she said, do you want to just like teach this afternoon? And I was like, do I have to? And she was like, no, but like, why not? Just jump in and go for it. And so I did. It was 1 period, it was French, which is my specialty. And then I taught 2 periods the next day, and then I ended up teaching 3 periods the day after that. And it was awesome, but you can say no. You don't have to say yes right away. You are under like no obligation to teach right away. But I would say like, if you feel comfortable and you feel supported, just try. And if you crash and burn, then just be honest with them and say, I think I just want to watch tomorrow. And if you love it, then do more.
For me, I'm a pretty anxious person. Like within the first week or 2 of being at the school, I went and had meetings with 2 of our teachers and basically told them that I felt like I didn't actually deserve to be in this program, and they were very nice about it. So for each of my teacher candidate profiles, I similarly sent to my associate teachers was kind of a heads up that I am an anxious person and that I was worried that I was going to fail. But what I really appreciated with even my first teacher was, hey, getting that anxiety out there helped me a little bit, because I was like, well, at least now they know. So then if I freeze in a moment or something, Phil might be more aware of it. And then on top of that, she had suggested that to try to still jump in as early as I wanted, as early as I could. And she was right, because like the first practicum is 4 weeks, and it goes by really fast. And by the end of it, I kind of wish I had jumped in a little bit earlier, but I appreciated that she kind of gave me the space to do that. So even making me nervous about it, I would say try to take a deep breath and jump in as early as you can.
That's great. I don't remember if it was at this session or something else, but I remember some wise person up here saying something about you don't win or lose, you win or learn, but it seems to be a common theme here. How about we open up to the crowd? Do any of you have some questions that are, we have a nice blend of students from different specialties and streams in the program, could hopefully field. Oh, hey, come in from the chat. Here.
Comment from the Zoom chat. What are some of the challenges candidates face in the program?
It reminded me when you guys said like the biggest difference between undergrad and here is scheduling. Did everybody like at their university get those like whiteboard monthly calendars? And you could like, I got one, I went to Laurier as an undergrad, the Golden Hawks. And
Who invited her?
I mean, I
You're 2 against 1,
like
so.
the Mustangs too. It's the Mustangs, right? Yeah. Anyway, I did not use that thing my whole undergrad, and then like the very first week of this program, I like dusted that off and pulled that out, and it was like a lifesaver, because like you said, like you might have a class only every other week, and then every other week you have a different class on that day at a different time, and then it's like just scheduling is hard. I don't even remember the question. But that would be like the biggest challenge for me was scheduling.
One of the biggest challenges for me, kind of related to that, was staying on top of things, especially when we went from in person to online again. I don't do well online. I do better in person. I ended up having to download, it was a free app, but I downloaded an app just called Reminders, and I typed in everything into one list. That way it would keep reminding me of stuff, because I kept forgetting. Because some classes will have you do something every day, some will have you do something like in the middle of the class and at the end of the class. It all comes in there. So, yeah, the Reminders app for me was a big one.
For me, it was trying to find work-life balance. It's really important to keep your self-grounded, and mental health really is important, and you're going to hear that multiple times from probably every teacher you have. It's really important to treat yourself well, and to find that balance can be tricky, especially you're going to have a workload. You shouldn't worry so much about the workload, because it is pass-fail. Get it done. Lots of your teachers will help you along those roads, but try to find that balance for yourself.
Yeah, on that note of the pass fail, I think that so for me coming to the program, and I think like a lot of us, it was earlier, but like a lot of us are kind of perfectionists a lot of the time, and like workaholics or whatever. And I used to like, with my undergrad, like just try like to like do my very best. And you should always do your very best, right? But sometimes like okay, you can like cut a corner here or there in the interest of like having enough time to like take a nap because there's so much going on. So kind of adjusting to that can be a challenge, but I think it's really, really valuable, and it's a good thing to do, especially if you're prone to kind of like overworking and trying to like reach perfection all the time. Just remember it is pass fail, and like think of it more as a job, and you just want to do well, but
I'm the only one who doesn't answer this, so I can think of something. Okay, I'm gonna give you a story, an example. For me, at the end of my fall term, week 9 science curriculum project, I turned it in, it was a lesson plan, and I turned it in, and I had this fantastic thing of like this whole, like 5 days of like do this and that and the other thing. My written submission was 51 pages long. And the feedback I got, aside from, the feedback on the content, feedback I got was, you have 38 some assignments this year. If every single one of them, I mean, this is the same as what everyone else is saying, but if you do each and every one of them with that amount of work and that amount of care into it, you are going to burn yourself out. So, come second term last year, it was that my mindset really had to change, and I think this is something that you will all go through, is this change of mindset from how, not, someone said it earlier, I think Kathy said it earlier, not what's the best work for you, but what's the best work that will help you to serve the students in your future classroom, and that the balance that we take is not just about surviving this program, but it's about setting ourselves up with good, healthy habits for when we are in the profession as well.
I'll actually comment on it briefly. Well, no, I won't, because we got hands up here, so let's get to that. Brilliant. I saw a question right over here. Yeah.
So I graduated 4 years ago, and I haven't really been interested. And to be honest, I'm not really all that comfortable with verbal stuff. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, have you had the opportunity to practice your oral French in the program? Or, I mean, how do you feel with your comfort level in practicing French with kids?
For the French specialty, we have your actual campus health class, where you will be speaking French the whole time that you're in it. On top of that, there's the social foundations class, and you'll have a tutorial with that. And our tutorial instructor took a vote at the beginning to see if you would prefer to converse in French or English. So those are your two main areas for speaking French. Kind of similarly, I am much more comfortable in my writing of French than I am in my speaking of French. I haven't had my official full French placement yet, so I'm currently working on my own to try to practice French. And I've got a friend who I'm doing French conversations with. So I'll get you on that one.
First thing to keep in mind is you will meet, like me, I didn't go to French immersion school, I went to English, just did core French all the way through to high school, loved French, got a university degree in it, took 2 years off, never spoke it, no one in my family speaks it, none of my friends speak it. And you come here and there's people who went to French first language school, or there's people who went to French immersion school their whole lives, and you might think like, oh my gosh, they're so much better than me. You just have to kind of put that out in your mind, and you get to practice in class, like Esther said. I believe we have a French club that was started this past year by someone who is in some of our classes. And then also in your practicum, you will likely get a practicum in a French immersion school, which will be scary, I know, but an awesome opportunity to practice your French. I am about to go into a practicum at a French immersion school, and I feel just like how you feel, like, oh no, what if my French isn't good enough? The kids won't know. They won't know. I'm sorry. Maybe some of them will, but most of them won't. And the best piece of advice I ever got was from my very first practicum teacher, and she said, if you make a mistake, just keep going. Because again, kids won't know. Like, just go, and if you use, like imparfait versus passé composé, or if you say something in present when you meant to say in future, just keep going, and you'll be fine. You will. Trust me. If your French was good enough for them to put you in the program, it means they believe in you and that you're good enough to be a French teacher. So, you're good.
I'll quickly add as well, one of the positions on the Education Students Council that we are going to be looking for is a French program representative. So for any programming, whether it's a club or any type of events that students in the French program would want to be doing, that's an awesome opportunity to take a sort of leadership role in that. Was that a hand or was that a hand?
Yeah,
That was
that's
a-
a hand.
I think that's a hand. Yeah.
I'm really quick. Where's your favorite study spot?
Good question.
There's only 4 chairs, so don't steal it. It's upstairs. Don't even know how to describe this.
Is it the new wing? What's in the corner?
No, what are those green chairs? How do you describe that? Yeah. It's in a hall. It's literally just 2 hallways. And there's 8 chairs, now that I think about it. And it's just 2 chairs and a table, and then 2 chairs and a table. And then the other hallway, there's 2 chairs and a table, and 2 chairs and a table. It's upstairs. I don't know where it is.
For me, there's like a sort of cafeteria that we have that doesn't actually have there's vending machines in it. I quite like to sit up there because at least when it's working, there is a lovely tea and coffee machine and the tea lattes waiting.
For me, I don't know if they're still gonna be doing this. Last year, because of having to spread us out a lot, they opened up a number of the smaller classrooms upstairs on the second floor, and so there were, some of these rooms that had like capacity 16, 20, 25, something like that. And it was really great there to do group studying when it wasn't, full of people who were trying to do private studying, because I would bring my whiteboard markers and there would be whiteboards on the wall. We could kind of like collaborate over things and sort of talk through things visually together with that, as well as our devices. So that was probably my favorite.
Like Esther, I really like the cafeteria because there's a microwave. I get hungry when I'm studying. And just right across the hall from the cafeteria, there's like another lounge or something. Yeah, that would sometimes have classes in it, but sometimes didn't. And there's also a microwave in there, so those are the best things.
I like the corridor.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what's the largest change in your understanding of what it means to be an educator, what it means to be a good educator, whether that's from your craft job or your first year experience?
I'll quickly comment on that, which is just that students don't look at you the way that the person you see in the mirror, and that takes some time to get used to, because I definitely still have that hang up a little bit, but I'll say I want to take a crack at that one.
Sorry, one more time on the question.
Yeah, what was the biggest change in how you look at what it meant to be an educator, what it meant to be a good educator? What was the biggest change that you experienced in your approach to education, whether it was from your first year or your craft?
Mine's a little bit dark. My very first practicum, I had a student who died. So for me, the biggest change after that was working with the kids to try to keep them going on their day-to-day lives, and to give them spaces for breathing when they needed it, but to also try to remember that life kept going and keep them going when possible.
I don't know if I can go up to that. You're always on.
Always on. You need to give,
This goes back to mental health and keeping yourself well and
having balance. You need to present the best version of yourself to the kids, and it's always about the kids. So when you go in and present yourself, you definitely want to be on your game, and you're always on the entire time you're in school, and even in your car, because they will say, "I thought you were really on." They will.
I think to me, a big switch was kind of realizing that being with professionalism, right, doesn't have to be music and right? So I had to find a balance between what does it mean to be professional, but still be able to be me and have fun in the classroom. And once I kind of figured out that, it was just so fun. And if you find a way to like bring a part of yourself to the classroom, I think that makes like some of the most impact on the students. Because if there's something about you that like is unique, or something about you that like, I don't know, makes it harder for you to relate to certain people, like even like a tiny detail, bring that forward in the classroom, because like a kid might relate to that, and that can be really special, and make more of an impact on them than you could expect.
I'm only doing this one side of the room, my apologies, we'll go one more here, and I'll move over, sorry. Yes, please.
Hi, and I'm in charge of health, and I'm one of the officers. I'd just like to ask for the people who did career placements in the same location or same school, who had like experiences in two different places, and for some who did it in different places, who wish that you haven't done that one school.
Did anything?
I did two different.
My first two were two different ones, but I'm going back to the same one now for my third one next week. And I just met with my associate teacher this morning. And I'm really excited to be going back to the same school, because it is a really big school. So it's a school called Saunders here in London. It's one of the biggest schools in London. So even though it is the same school, I'm like really confident that I'm going to have a lot of different experiences, because like there's 2,000 kids that go to the school, like it's huge, and with a different teacher on a different floor, like it's going to feel like a different school. So I think in that way it might depend on what school you're going to, if it's going to be a similar to this or different one, but that's what I'm anticipating. It's like I haven't started, but I'm going to.
I have had different experiences, and actually, and I think it's the strength of having those different experiences, not just different schools, but different settings, different community settings, different socioeconomic settings, different needs in the classroom. I had my first practicum was in a very sort of arts-centric neighborhood. The second was in a very at a neighborhood that was really dealing with poverty, like really extreme poverty. I did an LTO assignment in May and June in an area that was more rural, and going into one that is extremely privileged neighborhood. So I think for me, it's not about the school or the non-school, the same different school or different classes or whatever, even teaching styles. It's just seeing all the different roles that a teacher can take depending on the needs of the community is huge. It's to our benefit for sure, from my perspective.
Andrew, can you, real quick, you brought up doing the LTO, just for folks who might not know what that is.
Oh yeah. It's it's normally not, there are very few available to those who are not done with this program yet. But it stands for a long-term occasional position. So it's like a more longer than 2-week paid position in the school, and that's actually the school. But that's would be more common after we're done the 4 practice of the
Just really quickly, does anyone have an online placement? No? Like no online class? Okay. My second one, I got it, I was so pumped, and then it was like grade 5 online, and I was like, no, why? Like I don't want to teach online. But I had such a great experience. It was so unique. These kids came from all over Thames Valley, and we were all in this class together, meeting every day online. I learned so much about technology and how to teach online. So I just wanted to quickly say that if anyone does have that and is feeling like, oh, I really don't want that, just be open to that experience, because they're really awesome.
Yeah.
What is the best decision to make up? Like, you think that totally you would never do that back for your
Came to this program.
Oh, yeah.
When I started this program, I wasn't sure that I was going to stay really overwhelmed, on like this day for you guys, like carrying everything. And I am like an anxious person too, and I was just like freaking out, and I was like, oh, this is a mistake, like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to like be myself and be a teacher and like deal with the workload and all this stuff. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it to the end of practicum one. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try that first practicum experience and see how it is. Because really, like, once you're on practicum, it's so different than, obviously, it's so different than when you're in classes, right? And that's when you first get the real taste of like what it's gonna be like to be a teacher. So if you have any doubts at all, give it to the end of that first practicum. I don't know if that's relatable to anyone in here, but if you're feeling that way, that could change your experience. And
I quit my job at 20 years to pursue something that'll make me happy. I have 3 kids, a house, cars. It was really scary. First step is really important. Just the first step, and this was the first step.
For a very specific thing, I was really happy, I was at the same place as Emily in our last practicum, and we had to share the kids. But what I'm really happy that I did is before this, we can't tell it the voice, but I used to do a lot of work in theater, mostly as a technician. And I was really happy that our associate teacher gave me the option to try to do some of the drama classes online. But I didn't think it was a thing that would be allowed, but I suggested the idea. I think I was just rambling and was like, I could think of things to do with musical theater, but in my head I was like, well, we never did that when I was in grade 5. That was not something we touched on. And she gave me the go ahead, and the kids were so involved. I showed them scenes of like transitions and stuff, and tried to get them to like guess either what had changed and why. And then by the end of it, I had kids being like, what happens next? What's the next thing that's going to happen? So I was very happy that I had gone ahead with that.
And just time-wise, we only scheduled this to go to 4 hours. I'll take the next sort of couple questions. But just sort of as what happens next, obviously, if you feel like, going on with your day or doing what you want, obviously, we only schedule this to 4. We don't want to keep you longer than you have to be here. In the spirit of work orientation and knowing that a number of you may not have gone to Western and we're kind of on our own little island here, we put together, you may have seen some of the QR codes on a couple of exits, bathroom doors. This is a kind of way to introduce you to some of the buildings that may be of use or you might want to know on main campus if you feel like doing somewhat clunkily named the unguided guided tour of Western. And I think a few of us are going to stick around sort of after to fill in a number of questions or if you want to sort of explore the building. I'll just sort of say that right now. But yeah.
I know for me, even when I went, because I rely on OSAP to pay for my studies, and when I went to re-sign the contract for my Bachelor of Education, they made it a requirement, at least last year, that you had to work basically a minimum of 10 hours at minimum wage in order to get your funding. So I do work, my biggest learning thing has been when I've been like undergrad, I tried to work 40 hours on top of doing everything in the program, and that wasn't feasible for me. So during my time with the Faculty of Education, I made sure to put a limit on myself to 25 hours a week tops, and even that's still kind of high rate. I do suggest filling out the needs-based bursary, because I thought I wasn't going to get anything because I got nothing throughout my entire undergrad, and this time around they helped me a lot more with stuff. If you're also really tight on money, I do suggest mentioning it to some of the faculty members in the faculty office, because they do have some things that can potentially help people if you agree with favor funds. And I think the main campus also has like some food baskets you can take home if you need to get money for food and still need to pay for rent separately, take a deal. So yeah, for me, it was the location and being aware of different resources kind of everywhere as well as you know, that helps.
On top of that, in terms of managing sort of the schoolwork especially, because, you know, we're working to go to school so that we can go to school, you know, to work. For me, it was very helpful to just take things one thing at a time. You can take all your lists of to-dos, whether it's assignments, whether it's readings, or whatever, and just sort of distill them into one list, one chronological list, and just don't look at the whole list. Don't be overwhelmed by the 80 million things that you have to do. Just say, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? You know, sort of one thing at a time. That really helped me. Also, someone said this last year at ours, and no one has said it yet this year. I hope there's no instructive faculty member here right now. Okay. They're going to give you more reading than it is at all possible for you to do. I will give you that. You do. I'm not saying don't do the reading. However, know that reading, if you can find a way to sort of file those readings away, file the resources that you get away, file, you know, for when you need them, know what they are about, so that in 2 years' time, or when you're on your practicum or something, that you can find them again, because that's really what most of the materials that you're going to get are going to be all about. Is supporting your future teaching practice. So as long as you have a sense of where you can find the information for a lot of things. For some things, absolutely read them, and you'll get a sense of that really fast of what's going to be discussed and what's just a resource for you to file away and recall later. But having a really good organizational system for finding things later on is going to be really helpful as well.
I'll just add a little you might feel like speaking with your professors. And I think that's a big one because if you're working part-time, I have to work part-time, like they're teaching us how to be teachers, right? And they're also like trying to model what a good teacher looks like. And most of them believe that a good teacher looks like being flexible and meeting the needs of your students. So if you can't get something in, because you have a shift or something, and you need to go that shift to be the patient to your friend, just talk to them. And that kind of goes back to the professionalism thing. Like as long as they're communicating your needs, they'll really meet you where you're at, and they're really supportive. All of the profs here are really supportive. So just talk to them. You kind of find yourself in a situation where it's deadline versus shift, and something's got to give.
We want to take like a little body break, and folks who want to come back, we can perhaps, I know Sean, you have to jet a little bit. Some who want to stick around, we can do a prolonged period, and then we take the opportunity. So why don't we take about 10 minutes, little body break, bathroom break, whatever you need. If there's still refreshments out there, grab yourself some. Can I just get a round of applause though for our panel here? Yeah.